And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live Antwoord Movie Mania. And we are live because it is interview time. With my special guest today is an actor, author, screenwriter, and stuntman, and has worked on TV series such as The Wonder Years, Baywatch, and Star Trek: The Next Generation, plus also blockbuster hits such as the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Predator 2, People Under the Stairs, and so much more that we are going to talk about. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to the channel, William Perry.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to this for as long as it's been since you asked me.
But so I'm just saying there before we started, a massive thank you for coming on. It always means a lot to me, people like yourself, coming on here and just talking about their full career and everything and sharing your stories and experiences. So a massive thank you.
And my pleasure. Glad to be here. When you meet another, member of the tribe, it's funny. When I first started learning about that people were interested in the movies that I did years ago, I just kind of imagined people, they were like the Kleenex tissue of film. People had really no interest in them. They saw them and that was it. And so when people tell me that, no, there's this huge audience for 80s horror and they love those films. They watch them a lot, and they're like a favorite song you had when you were younger. People go back to these movies over and over. I was so charmed to hear that because I'm proud of the work I did, but I didn't expect anybody to remember any one particular thing that I'd done. And now you find out people say, "Oh, these are 80s classics." It's like, wow. Classic. That's a great word. That's a word I did not expect when we made it. You see a girl walking by with 2.5 gallons of blood, in pitchers. And you're thinking, oh, we are not getting the BAFTA for this one. I think we are probably making something a little less sophisticated. But yeah, I really look at the people I've met through this, through podcasts and going to conventions and things, as real friends because they nerd out on the same stuff that I do. And that's always a fun feeling to find somebody else. It makes you feel like, okay, I may be a weirdo, but at least I have a lot of other weirdos.
I know my horror timeline is from like the 70s to the early 2000s, like that full gap. Yeah. Like they're like my go-to horror films.
Now, let me ask you about that. I know a lot of, you're in the UK, obviously. Now, it's hard for me to know what movies got through because I heard there was something they used to call the video nasties, where
knock off videos, yes.
Yeah, well, and films that were banned because they were considered to be too graphic or too whatever the censors were going after. So it's kind of hard for me to know what films made it through because it wasn't in my mind because something was exceptionally controversial. It was more whatever the censors had a bug up their butt about at that time. So what was the situation? I mean, when you were watching movies, did you have to watch this on a secretive, VHS, or how did you end up seeing these movies?
Yeah, so actually, weirdly enough, no one's ever actually asked me that question.
Well, let me ask you, as an interviewer,
just keep the questions going back and forth. So we got hold of copied VHS from a market stall. I don't know if you know what a market stall is, like a trader stall. And he'd have like a full stall set up with loads of old VHS, and he'd have like a little copied section where he'd pirate all the films onto them. And that's how we got them. That's how you got pirated.
Well, have you never seen any of these on a big screen?
Probably. I don't think so. No.
Maybe in a revival of it or something like that at a festival. Because that's a shame. I think some of the quality of VHS the quality of VHS has never been stellar. So I think about some of the times I've seen stuff on videos, and it's like, oh, that's really a shame. Because I recently saw a movie I did back in the 90s. They were showing it at this theater. It was the first time in 30 years I'd seen it on a big screen, and watching an audience enjoy a film is very different than watching one at home. Seeing 500 people laugh at the joke that you made is a kick. I mean, it's a drug. And watching people laugh at the things that they're supposed to laugh at and enjoying the part that they did, there's an audience experience is very different. And it's I'd love to find out that people are getting to see these movies in real theaters. You know, you find some art theater that says, yeah, we're going to do some throwback and watch some of these movies from the 80s and 90s because they were meant to be seen in a theater. You know, there wasn't anything else at the time. So that's too bad that you guys haven't seen it. Well, I'll come over. We'll put something on the DVD. We'll rent out.
Yeah, some of the cinemas like in my area, they do like throwback weeks where they put like just loads of films on each night, like of different like 80s, 70s, 80s, and like all that. They did when did I see it? Last year? No, not last year. About 10 years ago, they re-released Jaws into the cinema, and I was like, Jaws is like my favorite film. Like it's just the perfect film.
It's pretty much a perfect film, yeah.
And
they do that here at the Hollywood Bowl. You know, you're in this audience of 20,000 people. They show the film on this big screen, but the music is live, and you get a sense of how important that music is when it's played live because you feel it. You know, because it's a full orchestra. You know, conducted, playing it live while you watch the film. And it's a perfect film anyway. And then to see it with, 15,000 people who've never seen it because they're younger and they never saw it. You watch the reactions and people screaming at the screen and, don't get in the water, you idiot. Yeah. And so I love that audience interaction. And I love that people get to watch these on video. When people come out to conventions, they'll ask questions about things, and I'll say, go back and watch the video. And when you do, look at my feet, and you'll see, and you can tell them about little, tips and little tricks we did back in the day. And the nice thing about video is that you can go back and watch it again, and you can freeze frame, and you can, get into the minutia of the detail and see the Easter eggs and silly things that people put in. So that's a good experience too.
Yeah, I am a massive VHS fan. Like I used to collect loads, and then when DVD, it's one of my big regrets when it comes to like physical media. And when DVDs came out, I was like, oh, I'll get them on DVD, and then I got rid of my VHS, and I was like, what have I done? So, but luckily, I did have a load spare, like lying up, like kicking about. But I've just recently been buying them off like car boot sales, like for like 10 pence a video, you know what I mean? Because like no one wants VHS, but I do. I love VHS.
Well, sometimes they had features, I mean, I know now when they, they'll come out with the 50th billionth version of it, and they'll have deleted scenes, which were probably deleted for a good reason. They'll put in, commentaries and things like that, which can be fun. But it just seems to me sometimes they're just bringing out again just so they can get in their payday off an old horse that should have died years ago. But sometimes the VHS has had interesting little featurettes and little behind the scenes things. Somebody sent me the other day a video of the making of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and there's a scene where the Will Stanton character is being chased by a wheelchair, which I did, and there's 15 minutes of behind the scenes stuff showing exactly how we did it. I forgot some of those things, and to watch it, and the unfortunate thing is it's such a terrible quality. The video is very has a lot of distortion to it. You can't understand what people are saying, but it was the first time I'd seen it in 35 years, and watching it, it's like, oh, that's right. We chased me around with a all-terrain vehicle as well as the actual thing, and I was watching like, oh my god, and all this flood of memories came back. And that's, again, it was on VHS. I've never seen it anyplace else. And it's and the quality of the one I have is so bad. I would really love to find somebody that's got a really pristine, copy of that, because it's not available any other way.
All right. Yeah, like when Blockbusters shut down, still not over it. I will admit that. Like I just love going on a weekend, renting a VHS. And just watching it over the week. Like I used to love going into video stores and just looking at all the different artwork on each. Because like now it's just all like photoshopped onto a cover. Like you used to get people like actually do the designs for it. Like
Yeah, yeah. And it was funny. We were in Hawaii about a couple of years ago, and you would go to these outdoor markets, and people would be selling stacks of VHS tapes. And I thought, oh my gosh, these people have no idea how those things would sell
Yeah.
at conventions, for the memorabilia collectors. And they were selling them for, basically half a pound each.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you have no clue. Boy, if you knew what eBay would do with those things, you'd be a new millionaire. And I bought up a handful of them. I don't have a VHS player anymore, but I do have a small collection of movies on there just because they were, some of my favorites myself. And, I've got a Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee video that I probably wore the tape out. And then to have an actual physical copy now, it's just a touchstone. It's like I said, I don't have a player, but knowing that's on my shelf makes me happy somehow.
Yeah.
Some reason that's still, it just holding my candle, keeping that candle lit for old Bruce Lee.
Yeah, in my the Movie Mania Man Cave, I've got a TV and VHS combo. So whenever it's like if it's ever like a nice day, which it is today, like in the UK, it's 30 odd degrees today. So it's like I'm in a conservatory now, and it's like a sauna. I'm like dripping. You might not look. I mean, I don't know if you can tell my tan line from today.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ooh, ouch.
That's just me being sat in the sun, like. Oh.
We were in the UK about a year and a half ago, just on a visit to see some friends, and it was about 75 degrees, and people were outside like it was like they had just come out from a bomb shelter after 5 years, and it's 75 degrees in California every day. We say we have two seasons. We have summer and we have fire season. Those are the only two seasons we get, and they overlap quite a bit, and it gets to 115, 120 degrees where I live. And so when you guys are like, oh my gosh, look at the sun, it's like, seen it, been there, done that. My wife and I love gloomy. So when we were in the UK, we expected to be socked in with gloom and fog, and that we would walk around in the mist, and we were going very Sherlock on this. Totally screwed our expectation. People are standing outside in shorts in 60-degree weather holding a beer, and it's like kind of chilly out here, don't you think?
When the sun comes out, the UK will take what we can get.
Exactly. It's like, get on your bike, hurry! We've only got 30 minutes before it's back.
But like from like back end of October to February, that's the winter months for us, where it's terrible. It's just all rain and cold, and you should have came then. That's
we got to switch places. Well, I'm going to take your house during the winter. You can take mine during the summer. You can get completely skin cancered out, go total carcinoma. Enjoy. I want to come over there and feel some gloom.
Sorry. Yeah, like what I was saying with my VHS and Blockbusters and everything. I was on the hunt because I had that many VHS now. I was on the hunt what was it, last year? I was on the hunt for a old school rental shop VHS. Where it goes down and you can put all your VHS in. But on eBay and Amazon and everything like that, people were charging hundreds of pounds for old school VHS racket. And I was like, I can't afford that for something that I want to do with it. But when I want something like that, my brain ticks over. I want it to happen. So I went on Amazon and I bought an 8-tier shoe rack, a metal like that, for £40.
Yeah.
So and it looks exactly like what I wanted it.
Oh, I love it. But then you reprint your Blockbuster thing across the top and put little rental
That's what I've done.
Unavailable.
That is exactly what I've done. So I went to my local library and I printed off the Blockbuster logo, and then I made all my little categories, sellotaped them on each rack, horror, sports, action, everything like that. Yeah. And then I found out you could print off. Someone had posted it. The rental sleeves, for the VHS cases, and the little membership cards as well. So I've printed all that off to make my own proper VHS Blockbusters for one.
I actually was going through my garage. I have a bunch of just junk that I've been throwing out there for years, and apparently I'm hoarding. I guess it's just not unhealthy yet. and I found my Blockbuster card.
Oh, really?
I mean, had to be, gosh, 35 years old. Blockbuster Hollywood. It said Hollywood right on it because that was the store I would go to. And I found that and I thought, I ain't throwing this away. This is a little piece of personal history, if nothing else. Yeah. And who knows, somebody will probably pay for it one day.
Yeah, after this stream, I'll send you a picture of the full rack, a full rack. Yeah,
absolutely.
But all right, so my first question of the day is, how is your day going?
My day is good. It's still early here out in the Southern California area, so a beautiful 200-degree day. I don't know if you guys see it in the international news, but our local hills are all on fire. They talk about Southern California. It's miles from me, but got the week off of work because they said, "Oh, too much smoke in the air. Everybody take the week off." I'm like, you guys get snow days, we get fire burn days. I'll take it. Take a free day off any day, any way I can get
it. Right, so we were just talking about it there, but take us back growing up. What movies did you enjoy watching?
Ooh, that's a good one. And what did I think about, there's a handful of movies that just stand out as movies that changed the way I felt about movies. I remember Young Frankenstein, of course, classic. A lot of comedies. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was a big deal. Raiders of the Lost Ark was a big deal.
Yeah.
Jaws, of course. And they were the blockbusters. Of course, Star Wars back in the 70s. Horror movies were really not part of my thing when I was coming up. People ask me, what made you want to be in horror films? It's like, I didn't necessarily want to be in horror films, specifically, but that's what they were making when I got into the business about that time. I wanted to be in movies since I was a little kid. And because I am little, I'm a 5'6" guy. I weighed about 125 pounds at the time. I made a good stunt double for kids. And I was in the business to be an actor. I was a good looking kid, pretty good skills, but I was just too short for most of the directors to really consider me. And I know there are other short actors. Tom Cruise is only half an inch or taller than me, and there were plenty of people shorter. Michael J. Fox was shorter, but at the time, I kind of when I started doing movies, I wanted to be in something that was going to just change the world. The movie Glory was a big deal when I was coming up, and it's like, yeah, I want to be in a film that shows people the way life was and should be and could be. I ended up doing, Lost Boys, which maybe, people love that one too. But for me, I love the action adventure stuff, and real hardcore acting stuff. There was a movie called Real People, I think it was called. Just really good tour de force acting stuff. The Godfathers and the what's the other one? Just thinking of a lot of the Francis Ford Coppola was very big. So that's the kind of stuff I came up with. And, pretty much anything. You really couldn't, I wasn't into gory movies, probably still could say I'm not, but just about anything, as long as you were entertaining me, that was kind of an escape, so, and seeing it in the theater was always a big deal too. I liked seeing it and I remember going to see Jaws for about the third time. And I remember watching one point, I had just sat down in front where I could watch the audience react to things I knew that were about to happen. Watch the popcorn go flying when that guy's head pops out of the bottom of the boat, Ben Gardner. But seeing that and watching the audience react to it, it was something that's like, oh God, I want to be the guy that does that. I want to be the guy that makes everybody jump. I want to be the guy that makes all the girls swoon. I want to be the guy, and I wanted to be that person on screen. So watching, films like that and just watching audience reaction, how could you not want to be a part of that process?
Yeah. Nah, for me, I love going to this. I always have done. I've always loved going to the cinema. It's like a proper comfort place for me.
Yeah.
It's it's just when you get in there, it's just. You just feel that experience as soon as you walk through them doors.
I like I said, I got to see a film I hadn't seen in a very long time on a big screen, and seeing myself 80 feet across, for in a movie. I remember that was my dream as a child, you know, and then getting to see it actually up on screen was very emotional. I mean, I went to see this sort of revival of one of my movies, and there I was, and I could see that the promoter was staring at me, and he goes, "Are you tearing up, Lil?" And he goes, "Really? It still works?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely, it still works." I know the little kid that, from a very poor household, very meager means, just saying, "I don't care what it takes. That's going to be me one day," and then seeing myself up there again was, yeah, it's like a lot of people don't get to do their dream job, and I did, and I know how lucky I was and how blessed I was to have that opportunity and to kind of revisit it. Hell yeah, that's a good feeling. That's fun stuff,
But like, here's a story for you. So like for me growing up, like I said, I've always loved like I love all types of film. Like, doesn't matter what like type of film it is. I can get a kick out watching practically
the Barbie movies, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like that. But I growing up, right, I was a big, well, I still am. I love Bill Bixby in The Incredible Hulk. Like,
Yeah.
for me, Bill Bixby is David Banner. Like, I know we've got Mark Ruffalo and like everyone, Ed Norton and everyone, but like Bill Bixby for me is David Banner.
Yeah.
And I used to go to a video shop across the street from me, and I used to rent it every day for £1. Like, like the 2-hour pilot, like the Incredible 2-hour pilot, and like my mum said, "Oh, why don't you just go and ask if you can buy it off them, because you're the only person who rents it." So I went. I said, "Right, I'm going to do it." So I went, and the night before, their place got robbed, and they took that video. I was like, no.
Oh my gosh. And I love that it meant that much to you. What do you think now, looking back at that kid who was, fairly obsessed with that? What do you think, about that drew you to it, to where seeing it repeatedly still had magic?
It's just, I always thought I could be like David Banner turning into the Hulk. As soon as them eyes go white, do you know what, right? Believe it or not, watching it, because I still always watch them now. Like, I watch the TV series, I watch the movies, and I still, as soon as the eyes go white and he starts turning, I just still get that feel watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've watched them, but I always get that feel. Like, I always just get that,
There's a handful of movies I feel that way about, and I just think that sometimes watching, it's not even just so much a comfort, it's it sort of draws you back to a time, a simpler maybe time in your life, or a time in your life where you were going through something, and that movie just had the ability to draw you out and take your imagination away and go someplace else for a little bit, and just be able to, be sucked in. When you've been in movies, one of the drawbacks is I'll see people in a film, I go, "I know that guy." And my wife will turn to me. It's like, "Shut up. I'm watching a movie here. And you're recognizing your buddies." It kind of takes me out of the film, don't be such a dick. And I'm really, really happy when I can watch a movie, even if I know the people in it, where I'm so sucked in. My wife and I were talking yesterday about Jurassic Park, another just groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I watched it, and there's, the scene in the kitchen with the kids racing around.
Oh, with the raptors. Yeah.
And the thing that gets me about that, the detail was, it's a stainless steel room. So there's sort of reflections in things. So, Velociraptor jumps up on the table, and you see on the top of the table a reflection. It's blurry, but somebody went to that detail. That was a groundbreaking thing. And so because the detail was so deep and those dinosaurs look so real, I got sucked in. I didn't care how they made the movie. I wasn't going, "What does CGI mean?" It was like, "Oh, I'm all in." And, that's when someone can make a movie where I can just be completely enwrapped. I'm not thinking about how they did it. I'm not thinking about the performances. I'm thinking about, "Oh my God, that kid's about to get eaten by a velociraptor." When you can suck me in like that, yeah, that's a movie that I'll watch, somewhat endlessly because they managed to take me out of my regular life and make me care about characters, dinosaurs, and and all that. And that's I wish there were more movies like that these days. I don't see a lot of movies that really just pull me in and can just I buy 100%. I know dinosaurs don't exist, but they did when they made that movie because I saw them.
I know that the effects on that film are just incredible. Considering when it came out, it's still, for me, if they brought it out today, the effects would still hold up. How the
I mean, Terminator 2. The effects of the T-1000 versus the and I there's a scene where Robert Patrick gets thrown into a wall face first, and then all of a sudden he just materializes backward through it. And I thought, whoever came up with that shot, I don't care who did the special effects, whoever came up with the shot, because it was so shocking and so cool at the same time, you almost cheered for it. You almost, went, yeah. It was so cool. So the idea of the shot, the imagination behind it, where the audience just literally just cheered for a special effect because it was so cool. It's hard to do that anymore. It's hard to do something that's, because now there's so many ways to do it, and computers are stronger and faster and cheaper, and they can CGI anything in the world. I don't think I want to see. I don't want to know it was CGI.
I like old school practical effects like that.
I think that's one of the things that sets people ask, why was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or 4 or whatever a classic now. And I said, I think it's the special effects that were 90%, 98% practical. Somebody had to figure out, how do you turn a young man into a marionette with his own tendons? Why, one would ask, but also how. And when people see that movie, there's a charm to the fact that there were actors actually working with that. I'm a huge fan of the Alien movies, and I watched a 6-hour documentary on the making of it. And Sigourney Weaver is acting, staring at a tennis ball on the end of a stick. And her performance is so good. It's beyond good. And she's looking at a tennis ball on the end of the stick because they hadn't put the CGI in yet. And so she has to have that look of terror looking at a tennis ball, which just shows you what an amazing actress she is. But now with so much CGI and green screens, it really requires a lot of the actor, because they have to be told, this is what you're fighting, and this is the choreography and all that. And that's amazing. But an old school fight scene still works.
What did you just saying about Alien there? What did you think of Prometheus? Because a lot of people don't like that film, but for me, I love it because. Oh, do you hate it?
I hate to see. I was actually going to watch it this weekend. My wife's away at a wedding out of state, and I thought, okay, I got to binge all the movies that she will not watch with me. I got the pizza. The pizza's cooking. The beers are chilling. I'm sitting by the TV, and so I watched a handful of movies over the weekend. And Prometheus is on that list. And for me, it's so hard to top Alien or Aliens. And when somebody tells me, I wasn't that big a fan, somebody that I trust, it's like, well, that just bumped it down the list. I'll still get to it, but I'm not going to put it at the top of my must-watch list when the wife's away, because I've just heard people I trust go, I don't know, there was something about it that just didn't work for me. And even if I don't know what that was that didn't work, it's enough to say, okay, we're going to move that into slot number 5. Number 1.
So what is name of a few films that are on your binge list?
It's gonna kill. It's funny. I got a bunch of grief about this actually on Facebook yesterday, and I watched Heat.
Heat, all right, with De
Niro, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it. And this guy wrote to me and said, "There is no excuse. There is no excuse for not having seen that film." And I said, would you believe that I was blind and deaf for the last 35 years? Because if you would, that's what it was. I said, I don't know. I just never got to it. again, when I don't know if you're married and have kids, there are just certain films the rest of the family's like, oh, no way. I'm not watching some shoot 'em up cop movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a wife and an 8-year-old.
All right, we'll watch Barbie and the 13
Yes.
Princesses for the 35th time,
Yeah.
But now that my daughter actually just got married and moved out, so now the TV's a little more mine, and I can have one in my own room and watch what the hell I want to watch, in my own time. My wife can go watch, Sex and the City. I'm going to go upstairs and watch, Heat, or I just watched last night The Amateur. I kind of like a good revenge movie, especially if it's clever. Those I like those kind of things, and it was well acted. Is it no Academy Awards going out for that one, but an entertainment. There's some movies I don't expect them all to wow me. Sometimes I just want to see shit blown up. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's a handful of I've written a horror film now, and it makes me watch other horror films differently. I want to kind of see what other people did. So now I'm tending to look at things a little more analytically than I used to. How did they do that? Why did they do that? I don't agree with that choice. I love that choice, kind of thing. So I've been kind of going back through some, horror movies that I would not ordinarily have watched, just because I want to see what they did. If somebody compares my book or my screenplay to something, it's like, oh, is that a good comparison? Oh shit. Do they hate it? Do they love it? Got to go back and watch what they said. Go, oh yeah, okay, I like that. So I don't mind that comparison.
So growing up, did you know, like, was that your sights set on being in the movie industry? Like, was that you knew what you wanted to do?
Well, I wanted to be an actor. Absolutely. Did a lot of training. I'm actually a way better actor than I ever was a stunt person. But because of my height, that was just a restriction. And the cool thing was, I worked, my very first job was for Wes Craven. And we had a mutual friend, a guy named Tony Caesar, who I should hook you up with. He's absolutely royalty in the movie biz. But anyway, he did 18 of Wes's films, plus TV shows and all sorts of stuff. And he called me up and he said, look, I got this kid. He looks just like you. Same height, same weight, hair color, eye color. Well, I had hair back then. And he said, would you want to do it? And I said, what do I do? He goes, you're going to be a passenger in a car. And I said, is this car on fire, exploding, whatever? And he goes, no, you're just a passenger. I'm like, okay, $1,000, I'll take it. And I got my union card, so I was pretty excited about that. And then he said to me, there's a lot of work for somebody your height and weight. There's just all the other stunt guys are like ex-gymnasts, so they big guys, really thick arms. Never been my problem. So people would just call me, say, hey, can you work on Wednesday? Like, yeah. No auditions anymore, no agents, no running all over town, no doing an audition and then waiting weeks to find out you didn't get it and wonder why and not know and live with insecurity and imposter syndrome to the nth degree. So when stunts came around, I'm like, I said I wanted to be in movies. I didn't say what I wanted to do. I should have been more specific about my dream, but this works. I traveled the world. I met some of the most amazing people. No regrets on that. And now, at my age of 63 coming up, might be back in again, doing a little acting part, written something. And now I don't care. I just want to do it. I don't care what I make. I don't care if it's a career starter. I just want to make movies for a whole different reason now. But back then it was, somebody had said to me, if you had 2 years to live, what would be your absolute priority? And I said, to be in a movie. And I said, okay, that's fair. What about if you had 1 year? Want to be in movies. What if you had 6 months left to live? What would be your daily activities? Being in movies. So, okay, if you had 24 hours left to live. And I said, the same answer. And he's like, you wouldn't go see your family? I said, my family knows I love them. Fuck that. I want to be in movies. I mean, and that's really the level of obsession with just wanting to be in this thing. And that's what it required. You give up a lot. People ask, oh, what, I could be a stunt man. It's like, you might be able to do the work, maybe. But do you have the commitment to be at this 24/7, 7 days a week, baby? You're driving down, you're going to the airport, pick up somebody, and you notice off in the distance, you can see the lights, they're filming somewhere. And you get off the freeway and you go into your back seat of your thing and you find your pictures and resumes. You go over, you find the stunt coordinator and go, hey man, I'm available if you got anything with anybody that looks like me, and that's just your life. You forego girlfriends, you forego decent living, you take really horrible jobs at night so your days are free, and your whole world is just set up around wanting this. So and going to the gym and working out, making sure you can do whatever they may ask you to do on Wednesday. We're going to light you on fire. We're going to hit you with a car. You're going to be attacked by a dog. You're going to get thrown off of some high spot. And you're like, okay, I guess I better learn how to do that. And so there's a lot to it. But I mean, again, I'm not like I'm regretting or I'm, poor me. It was the best time ever. It's all the fun you have clothes on,
So, like, when you got into the business, you said you wanted to be an actor, but you got into stunt work first. That's right?
Yeah.
So how hard was it to get your first acting job?
The first actual acting job I did, where I actually got to be on film with lines, was much later in my career. We did a movie called Predator 2, and they were looking for a gang member. And I'm not gang, I'm not street. I look like a preppy little punk, and when I went in for the audition, I go in and there's the rest of the guys in the room are massive, but they were looking for stunt people that could act because they knew there were going to be lines. And so they had to audition us. And I remember thinking, it's not a big part, but it's lines. And maybe I can find my way and wiggle my way back into the acting side of the business. But getting the opportunity to do it, was huge. And I knew that the guy I was with was going to get the part. Positive. They said, we're looking for a gang leader and his crony, his little punk, So I figured, well, I'm the little guy. So the guy I'm going in with is humongous. And he's got this weird tuft of white hair coming out of the top of his head. He's got tattoos of spider webs and flies and all sorts of stuff all over him. Big busted nose, just, everything you'd want from your gang leader. And I knew I wasn't going to get the part. I was positive. And so I just listened to what he did, and I just did my best to make sure Alex is going to get the part. Alex is going to get this part. And they said, can you switch places now? And I'm like, oh, okay. So they want to see Alex do one of the gang crony guys as well as the other. So again, focused. I'm focused on Alex. Alex is going to kill this part. He's a nice guy. We're going to have some fun. So they called me 2 weeks later and they said, yeah, we want you for the gang leader. And I said, oh, you got the wrong guy. And they said, why not? And I said, you mean you're trying to get a hold of Alex? Alex was the gang leader guy. And they said, no, we want you. And I said, I was the little guy. You know that, right? And they said, yeah, watching you, basically ordered this big monkey around as your little, thing was totally hilarious. And I learned a lot about auditioning that day. Don't worry about you. Worry about the next guy. Listen, play off of them. Put the focus not on yourself, which is kind of seems counterintuitive. But that was my first time. And I just remember getting to the theater, the soundstage at 20th Century Fox, and there's a plaque as you walk through the door that says, on this day, on this location in 1932, we filmed The Wizard of Oz. Dude, this is hallowed ground in filmmaking terms, and the sets are in there, and it's a $40 million budget, which was huge back then. And I just remember thinking, this is everything. This is everything. I have lines. It's a big budget movie. I'm in freaking heaven in terms of, the right place to be at the right time. And yeah, it was one of those things where you just dream come true. you know, and the cast was really cool. I told a story the other day about Bill Paxton was just very kind to me and gave me some great advice. And yeah, just that was everything I wanted. And so when I go to conventions and people asking what was it like, you know, I don't tell them any bad stuff, you know, because it
Yeah.
wasn't very much. And I don't talk about rude actors or stuffy, stuck up, you know, actors, because it's a tiny little fraction of the 12 years I spent doing it. I want them to know it was as much fun as you think it was. Because a lot of people dreamt of that. You know, a lot of people say to me, oh, I really wanted to do that when I was a kid, but, you know, life changed and I had to go do other shit. And it's like, no, I get it. I get it. It's not for the timid. A lot of people could do the work. As a stunt person, if you're a reasonably good athlete with, you know, some loss of brain matter, you can probably jump in, but can you do it 10 times? Can you do the same exact thing?
Yeah.
You know, hit that mark, that there's a little piece of tape on the ground with an X, and we jump off this ladder. We're going to throw a bunch of glass with you because you're going through a window. You got to hit that mark, because if you don't, you're going to be out of focus because the camera's only 3 feet away. So you can't not hit that spot. If you don't hit that spot, you ruin the shot. And that's the part of stuff that people who, you know, didn't do stunt work and thought, oh, I could do that. It's like, yeah, it's not just, you know, being a rough and tumble, you know,
Yeah.
you really have to have a technical ability as well to not get hurt, because you may have to do it 10 times, you know, to get the shot right. And it can't be your fault that they didn't get it right. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy that did it right 10 times in a row, not the guy that did it 8 times poorly. And finally, on the 9th shot, we finally got it. They'll never bring you back. You're not technically adept. And that's what
so that's another thing I want to ask you. Like, how do you get into the mindset of being a stuntman? Because it can't, like, obviously it's not an easy job because you're putting your body in harm's way. Like, how do you get into that mindset and, right, I want to be that kind of stuntman?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite quotes. They say, when you know you're going to do something and you know you're going to get hurt, you know, that's courage, but it's also stupidity. In equal parts. You know, there are times I was, you know, in my 20s, I was an ex-martial artist, mountain bikes, bicycles, BMX, you know, stuff like that. Not extreme sports, but sports that, you know, you get beat up pretty good. And so for me, it was an adventure. And that's the way I looked at it. And so I wasn't really training to be a stuntman at any time in my life. And so when it happened, I would, one of my best friends is a guy named Lee Waddell. He was Ghostface in Scream. And
yeah, I did an interview with him a couple of months ago.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. So Lee and I've been best friends since we were little kids, you know, since we were in first grade. And so I would call him because he was doing stunts already, and he got me my first gig. And I'd say, Lee, I got to get hit by a car on Wednesday. And he's like, all right, we'll get together this weekend. We'll go get a rental car. We'll insure the crap out of it, and we'll go make some dents. And for some reason, that didn't seem like a stupid idea to me. It's like, hell yeah, let's go do it. You know, and it was kind of a seat of your pants flying kind of thing. I don't know. I guess I never really thought that I was actually going to buy it. I never thought I was actually going to get hurt. A couple of times there were opportunities to get pretty badly hurt, but I trusted myself. As long as the safety was in my hands, you know, if I'm going to hang by a rope, it's going to be my hands. If I think there's any danger, I'm not going to be able to hang on to that rope. I'm going to ask for a wire. Say, look, man, run a wire up my thing, tie me off to that telephone pole or something, because I don't know that I can hang on long enough, you know, for whatever. So I would work with the team to find out what was the safest way that we could still get the shot, remove all the variables that I could not control. Because if I got to get thrown off of a catwalk, you know, 20 feet up, I want to know where I want to be the one who puts the pad where I think I'm going to land. If somebody says, well, I think you'll land over here. Yeah, well, you're not the one who misses it. If we miss, my head gets crushed. So we're going to move it to where I want it. So I was conscious of that. You know, I wasn't out there, we call it cowboying. Cowboying is, hell, I can do that. You might want to think about that, you know, because you can get hurt, you know. I did get hurt here and there, got a few concussions, unfortunately. Broke my wrist, broke my nose, broke a rib. But each time that those things happened, it was my fault, to some extent. A variable that I could not control. And so if I got hurt, I remember coming home one day and my wife sees me and I'm black and blue as I could possibly be. It was for Nightmare on Elm Street 6. And there's a scene at the very beginning where this kid gets thrown out a window and he lands on Elm Street, right in front of Freddy's house. And he runs up to the door. And so I was basically jumping off a 7-foot ladder onto concrete. And they couldn't put any pads on me because the kid was wearing a tight t-shirt and skinny jeans. So I had to jump, and it's dive rules on the concrete. Yeah. So the first 3 or 4 times it sucked. The next 3 or 4 times it was beyond. I mean, I still have problems with my shoulder from that night.
Oh, really?
And I get home and I look like shit. I look like somebody had literally just taken a baseball bat to my right side of my body.
Awesome.
And I tear off my shirt and I'm just trying to get it all off. And my wife goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, you're really hurt." I'm like, yeah, tonight I am. And she's like, "But you can't go back there tomorrow." I'm like, "Honey, this is the job. If I was playing rugby, and I came home looking like this, you'd say, 'Well, honey, you're a rugby player. What'd you expect? You're not playing with pads like they do in the States. You're getting your ass kicked.'" So you kind of had some expectation that a certain amount of this was durability. At the end of the night, she goes, "You can't go back." I said, "I made $8,000 tonight." She's like, "We're getting a new couch." Goes away. It was amazing how the concern went away. "Let me get you a bag of ice and I go lay down." Because you got to be ready for tomorrow night.
Do you know what? Right. So
it was. I never saw it as being anything more than like an athlete who does a contact sport. I kind of approached it that way.
Do you know what? It's so funny that you mentioned about Lee Waddell going to buy a car and just banging it up, because when I interviewed him, he said that his favorite stunt to do in the Scream, like the 2 Screams that he was in, was the car chase scene in Scream 2.
Yeah.
Like he said, "Oh, you can do the theatre bit, or you can do the car chase scene." He was like, "I'm doing the car chase scene. If I get to drive about and bang it about, like I'm going to do that."
Oh,
so it's so funny that you mentioned that.
Crashing a car when you know what's going to happen is so much fun. Crashing a car when you don't know, that's a problem. That's a problem. But we did a movie called License to Drive, and we're driving around in this massive Cadillac. We call them land yachts. You got 6 feet of car in front of you, you got 12 feet of car in back, and you're in they caged it, so that it's not going to fall apart. And if you do end up in an accident, if you do end up getting slammed into, which you will, you're protected inside. And there's a timing. I remember one of the things we were doing, I had a little trigger in my hand so that when the car hit, I would push the button right as he hit and the bumper would go flying off, because it was his grandfather's car and they were told nothing can happen to this car. This is a collector's vehicle. So of course the comedy ensues with the car just being, parted out by the time we were done. And so we're driving around and we're banging into people, and it was so much fun. The worst part of it was trying not to have that grin on your face as you're doing it. You don't want the camera to pick up that you're laughing. You're supposed to be scared to death, but you're like, hell yeah. You're going down the freeway and it's like, bam, let's gutter ball that guy, get him out of the way. And you can't do that for real. People have a problem with that. But when you're doing it for fun, you're not scared. You're having fun. It's bumper cars with glass, and so for the most part, yeah, doing crashes and stuff like that, it is fun if you like that sort of thing, because it's the thing you can't do on the motorway. You can't just have somebody in front of you and go, "Oh, I am done," bam, and then just take them out. There you go, Grandma. Next time, get out of the fast lane.
Right. So with the Nightmare on Elm Street films that you were in, who got in touch with you to do them films?
Different person. Yeah, what's funny is they were all done by different directors and different stunt coordinators. So I would just get a call, I was doubling for a kid, Ira Hayden. I say kid, he's 3 years younger than me. He was in the film, he was supposed to be a teenager, as they all are. And I had worked with him on Newsies. And so a lot of times what will happen is they'll ask the actor, hey, has anybody ever been your stunt double before? And if they say yes, they'll find out who it was. And so, so for a lot of these films, oh, sorry, he didn't work on Newsies. That was Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Sorry. Nightmare 6 was Sean Greenblatt, who I had doubled in Newsies. So they'll find out who doubled you before, who looks enough like you that it's passable, that we can be friends with you. And so there's a gentleman named Rick Barker brought me in on him. And I was friends with Tony Caesar. Tony Caesar had done Nightmare on Elm Street 1. So Wes had written Nightmare on Elm Street 3, or at least as a co-writer on that. So I knew of the movies and I knew they were very popular. And I thought, well, you know, it's a sequel. How, you know, we'll see what happens. And so somebody just calls you up and just says, hey, can you be there? And I said, what am I doing? And he's like, yeah, you'll find out when you get there, which is always a little unsettling. But they, you know, when I got there, they said, yeah, you're going to be chased by this wheelchair. And I said, well, why can't the kid do it? And they said, well, there's a wheelchair that's chasing you, and it weighs about 300 pounds, and it's being towed by a wire that's being pulled by a Volkswagen engine. And if you fall, that little lion's going to cut you in half. So don't do that. That's going to be my safety tip for the day. Don't fall down and get cut in half by the wire. So, and then they chased me with it, with a all-terrain vehicle. Crazy stuff. I think if anybody's out there watching, I think my host just got bumped offline. So it's my show now. Sorry, man. Sorry, Anthony. It's my show. But that's what was going on with that. I'm sure he'll be back. But yeah, so each of the different Nightmare on Elm Streets, I'll just keep yakking until I see him back. But yeah, on each one, it was different person, different actor, different director, different stunt coordinators. So they would just call me up and I would show up and do my thing and just do whatever they told me to do. I wish I could see if there were any questions online, if anybody has any. Come on back, Anthony. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since we are live, I'm going to hang out for a little bit. And I'm hoping he's going to come back. This has happened to me before, oddly. Who knew? Just internet going crazy out there. Probably so much traffic to this channel that we just overloaded the internet. We broke it. We actually broke the internet. Come on, Anthony. Plug that modem in. Crank that baby. Let's see. Let's see if I can see any questions.
Hello?
There, you're back.
Yeah, I've just had to change rooms. My phone got too hot and it crashed out.
I was keeping the audience entertained. I hope.
Oh, right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was like, my phone just completely cut off, and it was like, oh, your phone needs to cool down. It's hit core temperature. I was like,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I was like, oh no. I was like, oh,
well,
we're
still here.
50 minutes.
I exposed myself to your audience. It's just I've never had a chance, so I just stood up, dropped trousers, and just showed the audience what I got. I just want to keep people entertained somehow. I don't know. Maybe none of that happened. I'm not sure.
I've left my questions downstairs. Give me 2 seconds, everyone.
Well, let me just now stand in the back.
We're making it up and give me 2 seconds. I tell you what, here, look.
This is pro television, people. That's what I'm talking
check
about.
Out the horror. Check out.
Oh,
the
there we go.
selection.
There we go. That is the VHS rack of honor right there.
Oh, that's me DVDs, mate.
DVDs. Okay.
I'll be 2 seconds.
This is pro level work, people. Well, hey, and I'm going to take this opportunity to say, mash that subscribe button, mofos. It's your, he's got a lot of great guests. He's talked to friends of mine. He's talking to me now. Anthony's got some good content on here. You guys should be following. So mash that subscribe button right now. I know where you live. Well, roughly. But yeah, subscribe to the channel. Go back and watch some of these other videos. The guy's fun. Having a good time.
Right, I'm back. I'm back.
I've been doing a commercial for you just now. I was telling everybody to mash that subscribe button or else.
Woo. Right, we're back.
And we're back, and he's got questions.
Got the questions. Right, so during your time on the Nightmare franchise, what was the most draining stunt you had to do?
Most what?
Draining.
I would say number one. Where did that come from? I would say the most draining was that scene with the opening scene from Nightmare on Elm Street 6, because there was two different things they did. First of all, the kid's in a tornado, and his house is spinning around, and there's glass, and he gets thrown out the window. Well, in the opening scene, you see the window smash, and there's glass everywhere, and then they throw me through the window, and I go through glass. Where did this glass come from? We just watched the window shatter. Why am I going through glass again? Because it's a dream, I guess. Yeah, movie magic. So they use this really thick glass because the thicker glass is easier to make clear. And so I said to him, that glass is too thick. I'm not going to make it. I don't have enough run-up room to get out that window. I'm not going to make it. And they said, don't be a pussy. And I said, I'm just telling you, the glass is too thick and I don't have enough, I only had like 2 steps and then I had to be able to get through the window. So they said, just do it. Fine, I'll give it a shot. Boom, halfway through. Made it halfway. And that candy glass that they use, it's actually resin. It's not made of spun sugar like in the old days. And it's sharp as hell. And it's just cutting me in half because I'm literally dangling by my abdomen, one side of the glass, to the other. And so the next time they did it, they used a slightly thinner piece of glass, and a crew member, like some big teamster, grabbed me by the butt and just threw me through the window so that I would actually make it through the other side. And then the second half of that stunt is me falling out. And as I was telling you, I had to hit the ground pretty hard. And the stunt was I would hit the ground and then I would just roll out of the way. And then the actor, Sean Greenblatt, would stand up, gather his wits, and he would run to Freddie's door. And the cameraman was on what they call a steady cam, and he would chase the kid. Well, for whatever reason, the handy cam or steady cam operator had difficulty getting and navigating through, and they wanted to do it in one shot. It was absolutely the director's vision that me hitting the ground with the glass and all the rest, and then the kid standing up and running to the door had to be one shot. And we did it 8 times, which means I'm hitting the ground 8 times from a 7-foot ladder. And by probably about the 4th or 5th one, I recognized my shoulder was not able to do this anymore. I think it had already been sort of slightly dislocated. And so as I would hit the ground, I would over rotate just a little bit so that I landed more across my back, which was not good. And by the 8th one, I was actually rotating to the point where I was almost doing a flip in the air and just landing on my hip because everything in between was so bruised and sore. I didn't want to land on it anymore. And I remember looking over at the stunt coordinator, and he looks at me and he can see what I'm going through. And he says to the director, hey, how many more of these you need? And he says, how many more can he do? Says, well, I'll tell you after each one if he has another one left. And I was like, thank you. Appreciate that. And the guy says, well, it's a difficult shot. And he says, is Bill the problem? And he said, no, it's the steady cams. It's a complicated shot. And he's like, well, it's not Bill's fault. So every time he does it, it's another $500. The guy says, that's bullshit. He's like, hey man, you do this. You jump off that ladder, onto concrete. Then you tell me what it's worth. And he's like, I thought he was a stunt man. And the stunt coordinator was, to his credit, guy named Dan Bradley, was like, I don't ever want to hear that from you again. You don't treat these people like they're expendable. These are not, breakaway people. This person's doing his best and he's nailing the shot every time. The problem is the shot is complicated, not him. And so yeah, that's why I made so much money that night. But it was a beating. It was a pretty brutal beating. And chicks love scars. Fans love cool stories. All good.
Right, so for People Under the Stairs, was your first time working with Wes? Is that right?
That was my one of my last times working with Wes, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, that was probably in the middle. I think I think this is the 35th anniversary. I must have been. I'm only 25 now. How is this possible? But I remember that when one of my favorite fun little story on that. I'd worked with Wes a number of times, but he didn't remember me. And when he sees me on set, I'm wearing what I call the scrotum, and it's this mask that they gave me, and you can't see through this thing. And I'm standing next to Wes, and the scene I'm supposed to do. I'm attacking the star of the film, Wendy Roby, and I'm supposed to burst through a wall, grab her legs, and start chewing on her. And I'm wearing the mask, and I'm standing, shoulder to shoulder with Wes, and he goes, "Hey, where's Wally?"
Yeah.
Looking around, everybody's going, "Where is he? Hey, we need Wally on set." You can hear it through the radios. "Wally, where's Wally?" I'm like, no. I'm sitting there, and he, after probably about a minute of a very uncomfortable time, I said, "Do you mean William?" And he goes, "Are you him?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Stay close next time."
Yeah.
I was practically, rubbing elbows with him. And so when the film was over, everybody started calling me Wally, because number one, Wes called me Wally, and I was bursting through a wall. So I actually have a crew jacket that says Wally on it instead of William.
That's cool.
And it was, another one of those, just watching Wes work. Wes was like a little kid playing with Barbies. He would have his little people out there, and he would, but it was like real people he could play with. And he loved scaring people. He loved kind of imagining it, because he wrote most of what he did as well. And so he really liked to, imagine it first, and then bring in the actors and bring in the sets and bring in the music and bring all these parts together and watch them work, like he was playing with, action figures when he was a kid. So that was, kind of one of the fun ones. I had no idea the film was as well received as it is. In fact, I'm doing a show in Shreveport, coming up, Shreveport, Louisiana, in August, and I'm going to have my full mask and my full outfit to wear for photo ops. And I didn't know it was even I didn't know there was like a full cult following for that film. I saw it. Like, yeah, it's kind of funny, kind of scary, kind of mix of the two. But there's a huge following. In fact, I'm not sure if it's still true, but Jordan Peele was going to do a remake of it, and I would be very interested to see his take on it, because for Wes, this was kind of a there's a bit of politic to it, in that he basically talks about these rich white landowner, apartment owners, making millions and making people live in squalor. And the kid that played the hero in it, Brandon, he was the first Black lead in a horror film that wasn't like a Black exploitation film, and he lives. He doesn't die at the end. So it was kind of a groundbreaking thing at the time. But I think Jordan Peele's sensitivity to the Black experience is probably a little easier to believe than Wes's. But I'd really love to see it. I hope they do it. I hope it. I won't get a chance to work on it, most likely, but it would be really fun to see his interpretation of it.
You got to work with Michael Jackson. Can you tell us about that? Tell us about that.
Talk about a bit of luck, yeah. And in fact, at Wembley was my first day on the show, and I was playing to 100,000 people at a show. And a friend called me and said, "Hey, can you come to Europe for a couple of months? I need some help. I need a guy I can trust." And I said, "I don't know anything about what you're doing." And he's like, "We'll teach you." And just one of those things. There was a thing at the end of the concert where Michael would be flying away on a rocket, literally strapped to his back, and fly out of the stadium. And I said to him, "Well, I don't know anything about it. He goes, well, it's not rocket science. It's like, actually, it really is rocket science. It's one of the few things that actually is rocket science, because it's a real rocket. There was no wires, no nothing. It wasn't actually Michael flying it. My buddy Kinney was his double for that particular part of the concert, but it's a live thing. And he's got this rocket belt, and we strap him into it, and I'm working as his safety coordinator on stage. It's kind of a magic trick that we did to arrange it. And then he literally flies out of that stadium, and I very slowly walk off stage and then run fast as I can to the landing zone to make sure that when he lands, the area is clear and that there's no people there and that nobody's mobbing him, that the crowd hasn't done anything. And I'm on the radios making sure everybody's safe. And for 2 months, I got to be half-ass rock star traveling all over the world, all the way from London to Romania, and everything in between. Yeah, every other day or every couple of days, we would do a big concert, 100,000 people, and somebody had said to me, "Don't you get nervous?" I'm like, "Well, obviously, yeah." And they said, I said, "When you're an actor or you're a performer, the more people, the better, for some of us." And 100,000 people, they said, "Well, don't you get scared you're going to screw it up?" It's like, I get focused when I realize there's a lot of people watching. I don't want to be the guy that screwed up. And so 100,000 people means I got 100,000 reasons not to be recognizable as the guy who screwed the pooch on this. So, I don't want to be there he goes, 100,000 people watching you leave. That's the guy who dropped I don't want to be that guy. So I get very focused when the time comes. Yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm nervous because I'm excited to do this and I want to do it right. And I use all that energy just to get very narrow. I'm focused on doing the one thing I'm supposed to do properly. Don't screw that up, And Michael was awesome, very generous, very kind, ridiculous talented. I don't think I'll ever see anybody that talented ever again. And just what a great experience. Went bungee jumping into the Rhine River, at a music festival, saw places and people and things that I could never imagine doing when I was, some, kid growing up on the wrong side of town in, Southern California. And all of a sudden I'm up on stage, and I watched when the last show was in Romania, and MTV was there for it, and they filmed the whole thing. And so my little shot at rock stardom is up there. I get to watch myself with a really bad mullet, very, very 80s, but I look back on that time and go, I don't even understand how one person could be so fortunate, to get all these different opportunities. I mean, I never thought I hadn't left the state before I left for Europe, all of a sudden I'm flying internationally, on Michael's budget. Much nicer than my budget would have been.
Finally, I'm going to have to cut a couple of questions off because I don't want my phone to crash out again. That's the last thing we want.
We're going to get put that thing in a glass of water and cool it off.
Finally, going to horror cons and events and screenings and stuff like that, like, what does it mean to you personally, like meeting the fans, signing stuff, telling stories, like what they want to hear, like to share your experiences?
Okay, I've told this story before, but it's worth telling, and he knows I tell it. Gentleman walked up to me in Ohio, and he says, "This movie saved Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was one of the movies that helped save my life." Now, I got to know why, right? So I said, unspool that if you would. How does Nightmare on Elm Street 3 save your life? And he said, when I was young, I had cancer, and it was every indication I was going to die. And I knew this. My parents were honest about it. The doctors were honest about it. And excuse me, my understanding, I was not going to make it. And I watched these Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And there's this final girl, Nancy or, whoever. And they had this will to live, They had this survival instinct. They weren't the smartest, fastest. They were not any more gifted than any other kids that didn't make it, but they had this survival instinct, and I just wanted to emulate that. I wanted to find that that inner Nancy or whatever you want to call it, in myself. And I said, I can be her. I can survive, and I talked to the guy for like 40 minutes. We just sat talking. I was like, line schmine, we were just sharing back and forth. And I saw him at Scarefest in Kentucky last year, and he brought his kids to meet me. And he goes, these kids wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the movies that you made. Like, oh, dude, you're killing me. I mean, we all want to think that our work and what we do has purpose, and what we do makes a difference. And, in some small way, maybe it entertains, maybe it does something. This guy really felt like these movies were responsible for his survival, and other times it's a story where, a guy says, I'm at Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and this girl's sitting next to me, and it's a hot summer, and she's wearing a tank top, and it's our first date, and I never thought she'd go out with me. And the wheelchair thing happens, and she snuggles real close, and my hand was right here. And I got a little side boob action for the first time, Like, to be honest, dude, this has nothing to do with the movie. This has to do with your first, grope. And he's like, but man, it was such a big deal. It was like my favorite moment and, in my teenage years, and it's linked to your movie. I love hearing their stories as much as I think they like hearing mine, because you don't know why these movies mean so much until somebody tells you they do. I mean, to me, of course, it was fun. It was, work, and I was making good money, and I was a very, very interesting time in my life. But for them, they're just, watching this movie someplace in Ohio or Kentucky or wherever. And when they tell you what these movies mean to them, your brothers, your sisters, now your family, because you both have this history that's tied together by just a piece of film. But that piece of film means a lot to them and a lot to me for different reasons, but we get to share that, and so sitting and telling stories, I mean, it's just what we're doing here, and I recognize that, they paid money to be there. They paid to get in the show. If they want a little memorabilia or something like that, a signature or a book or something like that, I have to charge for those things. I can't work for free. But I know that they're paying for that experience. And so I hope I can answer a question they've always wanted to ask. I hope I can tell them some little tidbit of information that they never heard before, so they can go watch the movie again. And I told this one gentleman about you can see the wires that are pulling that wheelchair. And if I tell you where they are, it's all you can see. And the guy gets a hold of me on Facebook, said, dude, I watched it again, and I saw the wires, and I called up all my friends, and they all came over, and then we all watched it again. And it cost me nothing to tell him that story. I mean, it cost me nothing. And it just gave him this new sense of joy and this connection to the film, because I talked to the guy that did that, and he told me about the wires. Now it's all I can see, and they have this new connection with the film, and they get to enjoy it all over again with a new, piece of information that opens up the filmmaking process to them just a little. And if that doesn't make you happy, damn, you shouldn't be at a convention. I know people who do conventions that don't like it. They're just there for the bucks. I don't make that much money at these things. I'm not the big star. I'm not wearing the ghost face or the leather face or the, Jason mask or whatever. I'm just the guy that was the guy. I was the guy that stood in for the guy that got, I'm the one who did all the stuff that you actually remember, not all the yak. But I love doing them. I really do. I've got a couple of shows left this year. I got one in July, and I got one in August. And I really look forward to them. The worst part's the travel. The best part is just sitting and chatting with folks and, trying to give them some little insight into the making of their favorite movie. There's just nothing better. It's so much fun. And Lee does this too. In fact, Lee's in Texas right now, and he's doing a massive show, and it's the 30th anniversary of Scream. So there's all the big stars are there, and he's in there. Yeah. He just says, it's these people come out and they're just rabid fans. They just love these movies, and anything you can share with them about them that they feel like nobody else knew, they're going to go tell their friends, I spoke to the actual guy, and he told me this. I have indisputable fact, You know,
I
and
know that's
they can
why
now
I love
speak
doing.
with authority.
That's why I love doing these interviews because then everyone who I know, I always tell it's like, oh, they told me this about the film, that, like things that you might not know. Like I get a kick out of telling them. So it's like,
One of my funnier ones is people telling me that I'm wrong.
oh,
Lee was told by somebody, you know, that mask you have, that's not one of the masks from Scream 2. He's like, I wore that mask. I stole it from the set, for fuck's sake. Who are you to argue with me? I'm the one. It's right here, you know. And he was going to respond to the guy, and he thought, I'm not going to argue with somebody who, wasn't there. And the rest of the Scream community came to his rescue and said, dude, shut up. He was there, and yes, he is wearing a Gen 2 mask, but by that time, Fun World was making Gen 2s, and they furnished 50 of them to the set. Those things were for sale in September. They were filming in June, so clearly the stock was already, and they know the history and serial number of every mask that ever went out, and they defended him to the end. But it's funny because I will have people say, that's not true, and it's like, okay, is it possible my 7 concussions have made it so I don't remember that completely accurately? Sure. Fine. Whatever your story is, I'll go with you. I don't know. I was there. But what do I know? Sometimes people just want to argue. It's like, what, as long as you enjoy the film, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm not going to sit and mince, split hairs and mince words on it. If somebody enjoys the movie and they want to come by and tell me I'm wrong, come on by. It's going to cost you $30. So for $30, I can be wrong. I would love to do For Love of Horror. One of these days, I got to come out and do For Love of Horror.
I was there last year in October. Like, it was the first time I ever went to it.
It's like no other show. No other show like it in the whole world. Lee did it last year and said, he goes, it's not like it's just a convention. It's like a theme park. It's rides and these. He had a picture of him at one of the panels that they had. He's up there with the Screamcast, and there are close to 3,000 people in the room just listening to him. I
was in that audience, like when he went last year. That's how I got in contact with him. Like when I got him to sign my the Scream plaque. I just asked him. I was like, "Would you be interested in coming on?" And he was like, "Oh, ask me again in a couple of months because I'm slammed with cons." Yeah. So, but then he got back to he stuck to his word and he came on. So I was like.
Like I said, this is sort of like its own little mini con. I mean, I do these because I like talking about movies, and it's weird to have somebody care what I think. My family couldn't give a rat's ass, and my kids are so tired of my stuntman stories, they could just vomit on me. So having somebody who listens to me, it's fun to talk about this stuff, and especially if I have some insight that you don't already have, or you have a good question, which you've had a lot of great questions. It's fun, and you guys don't get tired of the same, stories like my family does because it's the first time you've heard them.
Well, that is it. Obviously, I've had a couple of cut a few questions out because I don't want my phone to crash on me, so I do apologise. Just the heat's got to my phone. That's all it is. But that's it. You have answered all my questions. I would like to give a massive thank you to William Perry for coming on and shooting the breeze and just chatting away about everything about his full career and my experiences and your experiences and everything else. So a massive thank you for coming on.
And my pleasure, really. I mean, like I said, we're all, after a while, we're all just kind of movie geeks and nerds. And when you find your tribe, you recognize that if nothing else tied us together, the love of these films is enough. We could be from anywhere on the planet, any, different strata of society, but when you get down to it and you start geeking out over film, you found your tribe. And community is a big deal. Communities with makes life worth living sometimes. So I love interacting with and talking to people about this because I'm a fan too. As much as I had the opportunity to be in them, meeting another fan who loves these things as much as I do makes me feel good because I feel like I'm not quite the freak that I. I'm not alone in being a freak. I'm part of good company.
Well, that is it. A massive thank you. As always, I'm Antwood Movie Mania. This is William Perry. Please leave your likes and comments. Please subscribe in the next one. And I will see you in the next one. See you later.